So hello everyone. Now we are going to start our third category is the networking, cloud networking. In our previous session, we discussed about storage part, different type of storage there, like object storage, block storage, file storage. We discussed all these things. So in this session, we will discuss about cloud networking overview. So what is cloud networking? It's the backbone of communication in the cloud. Something there in the cloud and you have to access that. There is some resources you created. Now how you can access that from your end via internet. So the total depends on cloud networking, how you configure there. It connects resources securely and efficiently across the region, services, or even in hybrid environment. So it totally depends on the networking. Creating a resource is not so difficult, but to connect it efficiently is more important. So totally depend on networking overview. Okay. So what can be the different components? What is the different components there? Very first thing that comes is the virtual network that you create there. Virtual network. In case of VPC, in case of Amazon, it's called VPC. That we need to configure one VPC first. In case of Azure, it's called VNet. And in case of GCP, it's again called Virtual Private Cloud VPC. So it is the very first component of the networking that we need to configure when we are creating some resources in the cloud. The second component is the subnet. Second component is the subnet. Anybody who is familiar with the IP addressing and subnetting, he knows well what is the purpose of subnet. Subnet means divide a big network into smaller subnets according to your requirement. You have big IP series here. So for the privacy, for the security, to break the broadcast and many other things, either no broadcast concept there. So for the security purpose, you can divide this particular big sub network into smaller subnets. Okay. So subnet per availability zone. A big network is a VPC where you configure one IP series, and from there you will create some subnets. In case of Azure, it's called same subnet within VNet. It is within availability zone, and here in this case, Azure case, it's in the VNet, virtual network. And the virtual network, the name is different, but purpose is the same. Creating a big network, setting up a big network. In GCP also called subnet, but on the region level. Same thing. Here it is called, we are calling availability zone, a big region. VNet also same thing, and region also same thing. And the third component is the firewall. You know the concept of firewall, you know the word firewall that we use for the security of that network. That is the security for that particular network. With the help of security groups, with the help of NACL, with the help of network firewall. Groups work at single instance. Works at a single instance. These are single instance. NACL work at complete subnet level. Here is the NACL. And groups are at single machine level. Got the punch? In case of AWS security group, NACL and AWS network firewall. All the terms practically I will show you in our next module. In Azure cloud, it is a network security group, same, and Azure firewall for the network security that is used. And GCP, they have a strong firewall rule only that you need to implement. Here we are implementing the security at 3 levels: instance level, network level, means complete VPC level, and then additional help with the security with the help of network firewall. In Azure, it's at the group security groups and Azure firewall. In GCP, it's only firewall. So having the only firewall does not mean it's a weak in security. No, its firewall is so strong that it's sufficient to protect your entire infra. But in this case, like no doubt, here is a firewall also strong, very much strong. Security group configuration is very much strong. NACL itself is very strong. But still, we want to provide the security as much as possible. So these are the different components. Now discuss all the components one by one. What is VPC? A VPC is a logical isolated network in a cloud where you can launch your resources. That can be the virtual machine, that can be the database. Take an example. On the land, a big building. Now here are the different apartments at each floor. At each floor, there are some apartments. Got my point? My drawing is very slow and very poor also. Like this. These are the different apartments at different layers. So what the VPC is the same like. It's a big cloud network. Inside that, we create some isolated network. Like in apartments, now you can design according to your requirement. Within the apartment, you can design it. And it is isolated from each other. Means what is happening here does not impact here. So VPC is the same thing within a big cloud. Either that is the AWS and that is the Azure, that is the Google Cloud. Create a logical isolated network in a cloud. To create a virtual network. Purpose acts like a private data center in the cloud. What you can do in your private data center? What you can do? You can set up your own IP series, IP routing you can do. You can implement your own firewall rules. Everything you can do, na? Same thing here. We create a complete isolated network. Inside that, we create the different resources. So what I feel logically, that I'm working on my private data center. I can do whatever I want to do. I can do everything like my private data center. Okay, so that is the VPC. So basic definition: logical isolated network in a cloud. What are the different features? I have told you what you can do. You can do everything. You can custom IP addresses. What IP series you want to configure there with particular CIDR block. You can configure on your routing tables. You can connect your own internet gateway or NAT for the internet access. What I'm expecting you know about the internet gateway and NAT and CIDR and routing table, you have the basic knowledge of all these things rather than keep discussing on this particular thing. So, examples in Amazon, I have told you already, it's called VPC. In Azure, it's called VNet. In GCP, it's called VPC networking. Got it? Next, what is subnet? Subnet divide a VPC into smaller sections to organize and isolate resources. Subnetwork to divide a big network, whatever the CIDR range you configure in your VPC. Now again, like in my organization, I have different departments. HR department, personnel department, production department, marketing department. The same way, we divide the subnet. Okay, this particular VPC work for my database server. This particular is for the application server. We divide according to that by creating a subnet. So there can be two types of subnet. Very common question. One is a public subnet, and second is the private subnet. Role of purpose public subnet. Some of the machine that I want to put to get connected with the internet that can access the internet. But for the security reason, what I want, these machines should not access internet. These machines should not be able to go to internet. For example, I have a data center. Here I have one of the application servers. I have one of my database servers. If any user wants to access something, first come to the application server. From here to access the database, like authentication or some other database, application goes to the database. But everything is in my database. All the data is in the database. So what I want, I don't want to give access this particular server to the internet access directly. So what I can do, I will create divide here. Okay, this is my public. Okay, and this is my private. My database server and my application server. So in this way, we can design our network. So we put our application service in the public subnet that can access the internet. And my database server that I don't want to put in the public server means don't want the internet access here. Because internally, this application server can communicate with the database server. Because they are in the same network, they are in the same home, they are in the same house. So they can communicate with each other easily. So if any request come here, application server check and go to the database server. It takes the record from there, or whatever the information required, come back and give the information to the outside user. Because database server is the most important, crucial everywhere nowadays. Everybody knows the values of database server. Like in a bank, if database server got crashed, everything goes for the bank. Nothing with the bank. So everyone wants the security. They put their like database server in the private environment, private subnet in that particular VPC. So subnet divide a VPC into the smaller sections to organize and isolate the resources. Now subnet is of two types. One is a public subnet and one is a private subnet. Hope now clear to you very much. Purpose, control, access and routing. Routing means to go to the another network, to go to the internet. We want to control that. So improve the security and resource segregation. I want this particular resources in my public network and I want these particular resources in my private subnet. So that I had discussed with the place of web server in the public subnet and database in the private subnet. Is that okay with the subnet? Last is the firewall. Firewall means security. What I want to allow in my network, either incoming or outgoing. Either incoming or outgoing, I want to filter the traffic. Filter incoming or outgoing traffic based on the rules that define access based on the IP, port, protocols, security groups in AWS, network security groups in Azure, and firewall rules in GCP. To whom I want to allow inside my network and out of my network. What I want to allow, what I don't want to allow. That I can filter like a security guard. Like a security guard here. I give a list here to my guard that this person should come in and this person should go out of my network or my building. Like a security guard. So this firewall is actually working as a security guard. Stateful response to allow traffic or automatically allow to back traffic. Okay. We configure stateful. Normally when you talk about the firewall, two terms come. You want stateful firewall, you want stateless firewall. Stateful means if I say to the guard, okay, one is coming in, he is allowed to go out also. If allowed to come in, allowed to go out also. If you are going out, then allowed to come in also. Vice versa. That is a stateful. One is a stateless. Okay, this person can go out but cannot come in. Or can come in but cannot go out. In stateless, we have to configure both the rules. Inbound and outbound rules. So, filter coming based on the rules. On the base of what I can, but in case of network, either we can configure on IP basis, either on the port basis or on the protocol basis. IP means if some traffic is coming from this IP, only that is allowed. If apart from this, or if some traffic is coming from this particular IP, that is allowed. Or that is not allowed. Port number. If somebody want to tell that somebody to ping me, or some for FTP server or HTTP server, that is on the port basis. Protocol. From which protocol traffic? Only HTTP protocol is allowed. HTTPS is allowed. But telnet, ping, FTP is not allowed. So we can do the filtration on the base of either IP base, port or protocol. Security group, I have already discussed, work at the instance or service level. Stateful, I have explained to you, automatically route the back NACL, network access control list, or network level firewall is the stateless. Stateless means we have to configure both inbound and outbound rules. Benefit, granular control of the traffic and access. I have explained that. Network isolation and segmentation, scalable and secure architect for cloud. Got it? That is the network. Like a VPC, it's complete VPC. Inside the VPC, we have create public subnet. We can create public private subnet, and we can put firewall that work at the VPC level. And here we can put our, like this is the particular security groups for different security groups for different subnets. That really depends that we have discussed. And NACL, so this is NACL, then again this is the NACL, network access control list, that work at the subnet level, either private subnet or well, otherwise no require for the private subnet, only for the public subnet. Again, we can put one more security group here. That is a security group that work at the instance level access. So this is about the networking. So what we discussed till yet? We discussed about VPC, subnet, type of subnet, purpose of that, then firewall, security group, benefit of security group, and all topics. So in the next video, see you with the database service. Thank you very much.